book nerds, so let's talk about why you have commitment issues. Hello, fellow book nerds, this is Gabby, and today we are gonna talk about all of my favorite standalones. The reason I said you have commitment issues, so this is the part of my Valentine's Day series. So I've done my steamy book recommendations, sapphic book recommendations, and today I thought let's think about all of those people who have commitment issues and they're alone, you know, singles. Like, I'm being so mean. I'm just joking, obviously, but I just thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, these, you know, you maybe not ready for a partner in your life, or maybe you are. Maybe you have a happy partner and you're great, but just in your books, sometimes you just want it to be just one book, one complete story, not waiting for the series to finish until you're 50,000 years old. We've all had those beautiful series that just went on for way too long. Here are 10 of my favorite fantasy and sci-fi standalones. You're welcome. Let's kick it off because, again, commitment's not your thing. Starting off strong with The Wolf and the Woodsman by Eva Reed. So this is a Hungarian/Jewish mythology inspired dark fantasy, and we follow a VK who lives in a village where every single woman has some kind of magical power except for her. So when it comes time to give a tribute to the king, her village nominates a VK. That hurts because not really a sign of love, since no one knows what happens to girls that get taken by the woodsmen who work for the king. I love this book. I just think it's done so well. It's not even that thick. It only has, how many pages? Only about 418 pages, but it's packed with so much content. We have a really good romance that I really enjoyed. So much darkness, so much disturbing stuff, but I really love this. I just think it was dark, it was beautiful, and it was a story about coming into your own and taking power for yourself, and I love a morally grey main character. I just think it's always fun. So this one's a really good one. I have a dedicated review if you want to check that out, but I am so excited to see anything else that the author comes up with, and I just think it was such a well wrapped up story. Short, sweet, to the point, and we don't need God knows how many sequels. Next up we have Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So this is a chunkier one. This one 511 pages, so almost 100 pages more. It's still fun. It's still fun. So this one is a story about three sisters who are all witches, and they were separated a long time ago, went their separate ways, and now they're coming together to... I don't actually remember what they're doing. Yeah, so this is set against the suffragist movement, but also like witch trials and stuff, and it's about women reclaiming their witchy powers, which I'm all for. So this is a beautiful feminist story that I really loved. I especially loved all the relationship between the sisters, and there's a bit of romance, but that's not really what this is about, and I really love this book. To continue the theme, this is The 10,000 Doors of January, also by Alex E. Harrow. So this was the debut of the author, and that is her second book. But in this one we follow January, whose father's gone missing, and she's been kind of fostered by this very rich man who wants her to become a proper lady, but she doesn't fit into the society and doesn't feel like she's a part of it. And one day she finds a key to a door to a different dimension. So this is a portal fantasy. The way this book did things to me was like unparalleled. I love the message behind it. I love the story behind it. I love the little romance in it. Okay, that was my least favorite part actually. But I love the story of the main character and how she grew and became her own person. It's a lot. The story is a lot, but I really enjoyed it, and I would say highly recommend it. Both of these are good, but I've definitely love this one more. It's just like it resonated with me on a level that not every story can, and this one did, and that's why I always have a special place in my heart. So next up we have Weep Woman Weep by Maurice de Blaise. So this book is quite short. I would say probably it's more like a novella or a short story, but we follow a girl who lives in this town where the La Llorona, the weeping woman, is the main character believes that she takes women from the village and drowns them, and then when they come back they're not the same. This is the story about the main character trying not to be taken by La Llorona, but it's more of a story with a little bit of magic, and you don't actually know if it's actual magic or what it is, or if it's the character just kind of imagining things, or what the story is. But that's kind of not the point. It's more about this character reclaiming herself and her power and becoming a force to be reckoned with, and finding her place in a world where she had so many disadvantages and hurdles thrown her way, but she somehow becomes stronger for it and somehow grows. And it's a story about healing as well and letting other people in, and I absolutely loved it. I actually got an ARC, but I read it way after it came out, but I read it like last year in 2021, but like after I've done my best of list, and I was really disappointed because I wanted to put this on my most surprising books. I love this book, and I think the message of it is just so heart-wrenching. I wanted more opportunities to talk about it. Next up, we have The Year of the Witching by Alex Henderson. So this was gonna be a duology, but the author said that she couldn't quite stomach writing a pandemic book in a pandemic, so she decided to shelve the project and started with something else. So we don't know, maybe one day we'll get a sequel to this, but as of right now it's kind of a standalone. I actually think it works as a standalone. I wish the ending maybe wrapped it up a little bit more. I thought it should have been a standalone from the get-go. But anyway, we follow Emmanuelle. She lives in this small town that's very, very religious. It's kind of like a cult vibes, and they are very resentful of the witches living in the woods. And one day the main character, whose mother died at childbirth, realizes that her mother had something to do with the witches, and she's hoping maybe that'll help her realize who her father was and stuff, and maybe she has some kind of power. It's dark and very gruesome in terms of like the plague and stuff, so maybe like it's not for every time of the year that you want to read this. I read it for my cults vlog, but I actually did really enjoyed it, and like I said, I thought it should have been standalone to begin with. I didn't really see where the story could have gone, where we could have gone more out of the story if it had a sequel. I think it talked about everything it wanted to talk about, so that's why I'm not too bummed about the sequel not coming out, because I'm like, this was a good story as it was. But author is coming out with a new book as well. It's just not the sequel to this, so maybe you want to check that out. Next book is The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. So this one is a historical fantasy. We follow a world where women are kind of prohibited from doing magic, or at least if they're married, they're put these collars put on them and they're not able to do magic after that. And our main character really wants to become a high magician, but her family's struggling financially, and she decides to take part in this bargaining season, which is kind of a season for all the young men and women who are unmarried to meet each other in the capital and go on balls and, you know, all that kind of thing. I really enjoyed it. It definitely gives Bridgerton vibes, but like with magic. But it talks about, you know, like feminism and kind of choosing yourself versus love. It's very good, but the romance was really good as well. Overall, this book really resonated with me, and I would highly recommend it. It just had a lot of really fun aspects, and the magic was really well done, and it had like kind of like a sidekick companion thing going on, which I really enjoy as well. Next up, we have Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. So this is a standalone as well. All of these are standalones. It's like set in the same universe as another book of this author, but you can totally read this by yourself. We follow Misaki, who used to be a warrior, but she is now a mother, and it's about her family and herself. It's about honor, love, belonging, making your family where you can, finding your purpose. I cried like a baby. I always say the same things. I don't know how to sell it otherwise. I just thought this was brilliant when I read it, and I still stand by that. It's a bit of a chunky one. At the same time, it's just so good. So those were all the fantasy books, and now I have 3 more that are sci-fi, so let's talk about those. So we have Remote Control by Nandi Okorafor. So this, again, is a pretty short book. I read the audiobook, but in this one we follow a girl who is considered like adopted daughter of death, I think, and she walks around killing people. It's about so much more than that, but it's set in like a futuristic world. I think it's inspired by Nigeria, but I could be wrong about that. I was so shocked at how much I liked it. I liked Nandi Okorafor's books. I read a Binti series as well by her, and I thought that was very well done. So this is why I picked this one up in the first place. but bloody hell, it was absolutely amazing. I just thought it in such a short time packed such a punch, and it's just so heartbreaking, but also makes you think. You know, it's just such a good story. So I would really recommend this one, actually, because I think it was done brilliantly. One of my favorite sci-fis I read. It's so good. Next up, we have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. So this book is a kind of like a historical, I would classify more like a sci-fi than fantasy, but I guess anyone can do whatever. But it's a thriller, murder mystery. So we are in the perspective of this man who wakes up every morning to be at this dinner party and experience the death of Evelyn Hardcastle, who was a socialite, and her parents, I think, are throwing the party. But the twist is, every day he wakes up in a different body of a different person who was at that party, and every night Evelyn Hardcastle dies, and it's kind of like a Groundhog Day scenario where he wakes up every day and relives the same day, but with the added cool twist of it being a different person every day. So he doesn't wake up as himself. He doesn't actually know who he is. He has amnesia, doesn't remember who he actually is. It's just he wakes up in a different body and experiences that person's day. And I thought that was like super cool. And I just love this story. It's so twisty, turny, and then it takes such a weird turn towards the end. I don't think everyone will love it. It's definitely more high-level sci-fi slash fantasy slash, you know, something paranormal rather than a thriller or a mystery ending. But at the same time, I thought it was done very well and really enjoyed it. And I know that he has a new book as well, so I really want to read this book. But this, yeah, I went through a phase of the Groundhog Day concept, and I find it very fascinating. I actually really like that. So yeah. And the last book I wanted to talk about was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. So this book is a sci-fi, and we wake up with this man who wakes up at a spaceship, doesn't know how he's there, he doesn't know who he is, doesn't remember basically anything, but he slowly learns that he's humanity's only chance of survival. So this is by the author of The Martian. Oh my god. The way this book shocked me and surprised me. I don't read that much sci-fi. I used to say I don't like sci-fi. That's a lie. I like sci-fi. It's just I don't read as much of it, and I don't know as much of the specific subgenres that I enjoy. As like fantasy, I've read so much, I know what I like. So this is me exploring sci-fi. But I read this book as an audiobook, and the audiobook was done brilliantly. It's one person doing everything, but then you have some like computer effects, but it's not, you know, it's not too many effects. It's just like one thing done very well. And I loved it. I think this is a story of like humanity and right and wrong, and we just put with this person who has such an important mission, but at the same time you're just stuck with this guy who like has so many bloody monologues, and then it's kind of like a buddy cop thing. I love this book. I seriously love this book so much. It was such a great surprise for me, and I think it's a bit on the thicker side, but I would actually really highly recommend the audiobook. The only thing is it's only available on Audible, but I think it's worth it. Like, if you just want to get a trial, just pay the credit for it, because I would 100% say that it was worth it. I just thought it was done so bloody well and immensely enjoyed it, yeah. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching. Those are all of my standalone recommendations. There's more that I've read, there's more that I love, but we can't put them all in this video. So let me know, what's your favorite standalone? I'm always on the lookout for a standalone. I just love it when a story can tell its story in like a sizable chunk. I do think we're moving away from trilogies. Trilogy used to be the be-all end-all, but now it's kind of duologies that are very popular, but even more standalones would be awesome. If you enjoyed this video, if you comment, like, and subscribe, I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it for me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!